and welcome to episode, I think 16 of the Organized Frenzy podcast. I am Natasha, and you can find me on Instagram as Organized Frenzy, on Ravelry as Natasha Hillier, and I also have a Ravelry group where I post my show notes. I didn't post show notes last week because I talked about one thing, but for pretty much every other episode I have show notes there. And I live in Welland, Ontario, Canada with my boyfriend Jesse and our 3 cats. I said those things kind of out of order. Anyway, my hair, I feel, looks a little bit odd, and you can't see, but I have a headband in, and it just keeps my hair kind of out of my face, but I don't like this part touching. I'm so picky with my hair. Anyway, I'm working on my Sock Memories blanket, and I knit a couple rows on this last night. Jessie and I went to my friend's house for dinner, and she wanted to start knitting a baby blanket for her daughter who is having a baby. And so we went to Michael's and got some yarn. I'll talk more about that later. I realized as I'm talking now I forgot show notes, or forgot to make myself notes. I don't feel like really pausing the video to look at my phone and do that, so I'll just wing it because I pretty much remembered what I was going to talk about. Let me put my needle cozy back on so nothing falls here. This is my Sock Memories, and it's funny because it's not one of the first WIPs that I go to, because it's like its own kind of category, I guess, being scrappy. But I love working on it. Whenever I pick it back up or when I do it for the podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this thing so much. It is so fun, even though it's garter, and I sometimes find garter boring depending on what's going on. But because I get to go through all the socks that I've made and kind of reminisce about those, I love it. And the yarn cakes that I've got, so this is the one that I'm working on. Actually, I was hoping I would get this while I was knitting on the podcast. It's starting the next color soon, so that's this one right here in the center. Those were some socks for Jessie that I knit, and then those were socks for me and me. Mostly they're socks for me. But anyway, so these giant, like abnormally large, same size as my face, cakes that I wind up are really fun to use. So it's Christmas socks in this one. Anyway, so I've been slowly chipping away at this. I have been weaving in my ends as I go on this thing, because it gives me something to do kind of while I'm working on it. So here's the spot where I wove in the ends. You can tell because I'm pointing it out, but just at first glance it's not super obvious. So weaving in the ends, a little bit of the ends are poking out, but that's okay with me because I'm just going to trim them up and stuff once this thing is done and once it's washed. I think it doesn't feel like a true WIP because, like I said, it's in a category of its own, just being such a long WIP. I know it's not going to be an FO anytime soon, so it's kind of like one of those things that you just push aside. But whenever I pick it up, I love it. I like those needles a lot, the Leica or Likey or whatever they're called. 3.25 millimeters, what I'm using. And I think just using them, they're getting a bit smoother because every time you do a knit stitch or whatever, they rub and then they just kind of smooth out. Kind of like how I find the colored aluminum needles will wear a bit, like the color will wear off. So anyway, I ended a couple rows last night. I did one earlier today and then the one just now. So I love all those colors. I think it's so fun, so neat to see how it's all coming together. And then whenever I wear a pair of socks, if it's in the blanket, and I'm working on the blanket at the time, I think it's fun to see the colors there. But I am drinking tea. This is the first tea I've had in probably a month. It's not a David's tea. It's from Terra Teas, which is in Hamilton. I got it from Lucas, so he's the owner of the Black Sheep Lounge where Jessie works. And it's chocolate mint, so it's organic tea and it's rooibos. But yeah, I thought it would be a neat one to try. I just kind of pulled the first one out that I saw. I didn't want to just sit there and sort through all the teas, and counter's a bit messy right now, like, so I didn't want to set all the containers down. Not so much chocolate, more just kind of like an overall richness, and then a little bit minty, not too overwhelming. So that one's nice. What do I have to talk about? Not a lot, because I've been quite monogamous this week. So no FOs. This is my French field bag, covered in cat hairs, as you can see. Sorry if that's gross to you. I forgot to talk about this like forever ago, but this strap, if you have a bag, you know that the straps come, or this leather handle thing, comes super, super stiff, and it's really light, and I wanted to have it darker so that it would kind of match the bag more, or just, you know, for a different look. My gray fringe bag, it's just, I've been using it so it's nice and soft, the leather, but it still is that original color, slightly darker. But I figured I would try putting some oil on this one, and I didn't want to use olive oil or vegetable oil, so I used coconut oil, but I have solid coconut oil, so I had to melt it and then put it on, and then I kind of realized as it hardened that this was still stiff, and I was like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the best idea. I'm using this bag more, so it is softening up a bit, but it's still kind of stiff. But I love the color of it. I think it looks really neat with the army. And then I have my Knit Club pin on this one. So this is my Stars Align shawl that I've been knitting, and I have knit so much. All right, let's see where I was last. So here's my progress keeper from last time, and this is what I had done. So there's the progress keeper right on one of those blue stripes. All right, so I knit all of this. From here to here. I've just been going like crazy on this thing because it's been so fun. There are some things I have to tell you about this. One is a bit devastating. The other is kind of ironic. So let's start with the devastating one first. So this blue, my two colors are Baltic, Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and then this creamy color. It's kind of like an off-white. It's a little bit dirty-ish looking. Like you get these bits of darker color. Maybe that, yeah. You can see it better on the camera. Anyway, those are my colors. And they're both Tosh Merino Light. Antique Lace is the other one. Baltic is the blue. I bought them separately, but then, or I bought the Antique Lace to go with Baltic for a shawl. Because I bought Baltic when I first kind of got back into knitting, and I was like, yeah, this would be beautiful socks. Not knitting socks in 100% merino single ply yarn. That's not for socks. I mean, you could, but I didn't want to. Anyway, I love this blue so much. It stains my fingers when I knit with it, which I don't even care because I love it. But this is all I have left. So that's like less than a gram, or maybe about a gram. My scale is in my bag because I had to be weighing things. So that was quite devastating. I didn't even get to finish this section in blue, and I'm sure you could already tell, and you can tell now, but I had to use a substitute color. So I am using leftover from my WIP Fade, and this is Eggplant, Malabrigo Makita. And it really is not similar in color, but it's literally the closest thing that I have. I have a dark brown in Madeline Tosh in a unicorn tail. It's called Whiskey Barrel, but I don't even know if I would have had enough for what I needed to do, so I just figured I'd grab that. I had other, like there's green, and then there's that other one, my leftovers over there, but they were all gonna be quite a contrast. This is still gonna be a contrast, but at least it's kind of dark-ish. But I was so sad and so heartbroken when I realized that I didn't have enough yarn to finish my shawl. So I'm worried about the Antique Lace as well. I think there was like 68 grams when I weighed it last. This I'm pulling from the outside because I find single ply yarns get a bit more tangly when you pull from the center. So this is the Antique Lace, which I love. This is like, well, a little while ago it was like 68 grams. So I don't know if there's more of this and there was less of the Baltic. I figure my gauge is kind of like what's to blame here, because you're supposed to be able to use, well, Tina Say for her hers used 2 skeins of Tosh Merino Light as well, and that's what she knit the pattern in. She didn't say you need extra, it's just the 2 skeins that you need. So anyway, so I feel like my gauge is loose. I'm using the needles that she calls for in the pattern, which is 3.75 millimeter. But I guess my gauge is just loose. Here's the right side. And like it's nice and airy. You can see I love these eyelets, but if I stretch it out, like there's my gauge. You can see through the stitches when you hold it up to the light and stuff like this. So I kind of struggle now to think about, or it's a struggle to think about shawls and stuff, because now, like for all the ones that I have planned, it's like, well, do I go down a needle size to make sure I have enough yarn, or do I kind of just wing it and see, like, you know, maybe in a tighter gauge you'd have a leftover yarn, but maybe in my gauge there would be just enough. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do for my future shawls. I guess I'll have to look at people's project pages to see how much yarn they used. I have tags for the yarn in here. Oh, here's Whiskey Barrel. Just a dark brown, a unicorn tail. And then I have a unicorn tail of antique lace, which I bought first, and then I was like, oh, this would be beautiful with Baltic, and that's why I bought antique lace. Anyway, she doesn't say on here how many grams it is, but I think her skeins are like 115 grams per skein, 420 yards or something like that. Look how dirty this is. So I don't know. I'm sad about it. So we have more antique lace, which is kind of good at that. That's the one that I have because I don't have any other light colors. I was looking at Ravelry to see who had it stashed and if I could buy it from them, and I figured, well, I don't necessarily want to do that because then I have to wait for the yarn to come before I can finish the shawl, and then I'm still gonna have a bunch of leftover of this yarn. It is beautiful yarn. I could figure out something, but I don't want to necessarily give it away or like make myself something else with those colors. So I just figured I would use the eggplant that I had left over, and it's gonna be a bit of a contrast, but I'm gonna have to be okay with it. Feels like there's a hair on me. But yeah, I'm glad I have extra antique lace because that's such a light color. If I were to replace that with anything else, it would be quite obvious what was going on. So hopefully I have enough of that antique lace to finish. Otherwise, I don't even know at this point. But anyway, let's not think about that. So that's my main WIP. As you can see, oh, I forgot to move my progress keyboard. As you can see, I have been working like crazy on it. I'm excited to have it done. And it's fun because the shawl is a triangle shawl, but you start at one point and then you start at the one side. So it gets bigger, 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 and then smaller, smaller, smaller. So I'm decreasing right now, which is fun, and the rows keep going faster and faster instead of longer and longer. So I am really enjoying that. And I just kept the needles the same ones that I started it with. I think it's 24 inches, I think is the length of that cord. So it's small, but there's not a ton of stitches, like 140 or something at the maximum point, at one point or something like that. I don't know. So I haven't run out of needle or cord space, so I didn't have to upgrade to a bigger cord. And now I'm decreasing again, so everything fits and it's fine. Last week it was Easter, excuse me. So I worked a little bit on the two socks that I'm working on. The one pair for my grandma I didn't really work on, excuse me, because those are not the ones that I brought with me. But I will be working on those soon. I did a few rows and I realized I enjoy my Addies so much more than those Chow-Goos. They're just so much smoother for knitting. So I might focus on those first, and because there's 56 stitches, so it's small. Though she does want a long leg, but anyway, did those a little bit. But then the other pair of socks were those green ones. I should have just brought them to show you, but I felt kind of lazy because that was the main thing that I want to talk about. Those other green socks were going to be for Fred, who is still our roommate, but if you were listening at the beginning, I didn't say his name for the in my intro, because he's not going to be living with us for much longer. He's going to be moving. So I'm not going to go into too much details, and it's not like as dramatic as it sounds. It's sort of a little dramatic, but not really. But yeah, he's not going to be living with us anymore, and so I also, based on what happened, you can send me a message if you want to know, but I don't think it's something that needs to be announced on a public video. But those socks are no longer going to be for Fred, so good thing Jessie has feet that are about the same size, and I haven't turned to the heel yet, so I'm just going to keep working on those until they're a little bit longer, and they'll fit Jessie. But those socks are not a priority because Jessie wants a sweater. He doesn't want socks right now. So those probably will be put on the back burner for a bit, but I want to finish the socks for my grandma. But main priority right now is the Stars Align shawl. And then I think soon I'm going to start the baby, not baby blanket, baby sweater for my manager who is pregnant, and she's due in July. So I picked out some yarn just from my stash. It's a gray tweed and it's Knit Picks, and I'm going to knit, I think it's called Playdate by Tin Can Knit. So it's a pattern that I purchased, but I'm gonna knit that using that Knit Picks color, and I am so excited about that. But last weekend, this sweater that I'm wearing is neat. It's from Roots, which is normally very expensive for sweaters, like $80, maybe closer to $100. But we went to an outlet on Easter weekend and I got it for $20, which is crazy. I got a new wallet as well. I got a Blue Jay shirt. What else did I get? Jessie got like 3 sweaters and sweatpants. So it was really great deals, but yeah, so that's the sweater. I wore it to work a couple times this week, and it's lamb's wool, and where's the tag? Lamb's wool and nylon or something, I want to say. Oh, here it is. Yep, 80-20. Lamb's wool and nylon. Anyway, this thing is so warm, but I don't find that I sweat in it because it's a natural fiber. It's a little bit itchy, but it's okay. Anyway, that's kind of what I have planned for knitting. I'm going to Walmart after this to buy, I need some groceries, and also those big foam mats I'm gonna buy, because I have some blocking mats that are 12 inches by 12 inches, but those are not big enough for some of the things I want to block, and the cat's got into them. You'll see those later. Maybe next episode. I was hoping to go to Walmart before I recorded, but I'm kind of having a lazy morning, just doing some laundry and things like that, so I figured I would just record now and go to Walmart later. For Knittertainment, I've kind of been all over the place. I haven't really watched any of my shows. I think I watched I talked about last time, Riverdale and Jane the Virgin are on another break, so I haven't watched those recently. It's getting a bit frustrating. Like, you want to watch something consistently, and it's kind of a pain to have to wait a week for each new episode, and now it's like 3 weeks. So I haven't watched those. I've listened to the first 2 or 3 chapters of The Secret Garden, which I bought on iTunes for my best friend Steph and I, and I don't think she's listened to it yet. We're supposed to listen to it together. We a couple of times have read books at the same time and kind of like shared our feedback as we're going, which is really fun, I think. Whoops. But she's very busy, so she hasn't listened to it yet. So I'm trying to, hold off, but you gotta, like, when you're reading and when you're, when you're reading and when you're listening to an audiobook, you can't take, for me anyway, I can't take big gaps between, or big breaks between the chapters that I read or listen to, because then I kind of just forget what's going on and I lose interest. The book that I'm reading right now, I've actually started for the second time because I didn't get very far the first time. It's All the Light We Cannot See. And of course I meant to bring that too, but then I didn't do my show notes. Anthony Doerr or something like that. And it won an award. Like, it's a quite popular book. My sister got it for me and I was like, oh yeah, this will be exciting to read. I started it and I wasn't too into it because the chapters are short, like 1 to 2 pages. So I was like, well, this is perfect. I can read it here and there. But then I was never really getting into it. And I think I was like on page 70 or something. And I just stopped for a long time and didn't pick it back up. But then I finished my one book that I was reading. So I said, I'm just going to start over. And I remembered only a few things from those 70 pages that I read, so kind of worked out that I'm starting it again. Now I'm further than that in like the last week. Oh, excuse me. I have a tickle in my throat. So now I'm further than I was, and I am enjoying it more. And I've been watching a lot of podcasts, mostly just catching up on Grocery Girls and Yarn Hoarder. I'm trying to remember if there's anyone else I watched, but I don't think so. I think it's just those 2. Because I watched all the Grocery Girls for like ever, or not forever, but like a while ago. And I pretty much caught up except for the last like 2-3 episodes. And I was like, oh, this is kind of bittersweet. Like, I knew they'd come out with more episodes, but I didn't feel like ending it quite then. And then I just was watching other things. So I'm almost caught up. And then Yarn Hoarder, I am still working on. There's so many podcasts to watch. But then the other thing I'm thinking of doing is starting to watch One Tree Hill, which I watched a long time ago. I think I started watching it when I was in high school, and then rewatched in university with my roommates. I'm trying to remember. But I didn't really get too far, maybe like season 5 or 6. I don't think I got too far past that. I don't even know how many seasons there are now, but I think it's done. Yeah, it's done. So that would be a neat one to watch because it's something that I've seen, so I could have it in the background. It's not a big deal. And it's not one that you have to be super focused on. So I think those are kind of like the best shows for me to watch while I'm knitting, but I don't know yet. I'm just gonna stick with podcasts for right now, and maybe I'll start. No, I don't want to start too many books because I'm reading one and listening to one. My mind's gonna be all confused what's going on. But yeah, that's kind kind of what I've been up to. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else, because I made a note in my phone. Yeah, it was Easter last weekend, so it was nice to see my family, and we saw Jesse's family. And the Knitters Frolic, is that what it's called? Knitters Frolic. It's coming up soon, April 28th in Toronto. I was supposed to go with my mom, but she is working, so I have to figure out who I'm gonna go with instead, but probably gonna see if my aunt wants to go because she's a knitter, although not quite so much like me. No one in my family really knits like I do. So I could go by myself, but I don't really want to venture into Toronto, and it's kind of like on the other side of Toronto, like furthest from where I am, and I don't want to drive there, but I was going to go home for that weekend so that I could go down from my grandma's house, and she lives closer, but I don't know. I have to see. I'll ask my aunt and see what she says. Otherwise, I don't know, drag one of my sisters. But yeah, so looking forward to that. I've kind of planned out what I want to buy, because I don't want to just go crazy and get things that I'm not going to use. Plus, as I keep repeating a million times, trying to get through my stash, so I don't want to get too much stuff. But I would like to get another project bag, a bucket kind of thing, because I love those. The bags are good, but the buckets I'm loving more right now. So I have one on the way, actually. You'll see that hopefully next week. It's in the mail. So maybe get another project bag or bucket type bag or something, and of course some yarn, but I'm going with projects in mind, so, or things in mind, so that it's not going to be too crazy. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. That's about it. I don't know. Oh, I was gonna tell you. So last night I went to my friend's house, who is one of the ladies that she already knew how to knit, but I was helping her kind of relearn. And like I said, her daughter's having a baby, so she wants to knit a baby blanket. And my nail's chipping. Nope. So she wants to knit a baby blanket, and she wants to do it in cotton, because like myself, she likes natural fibers. She didn't want to do wool. Baby's gonna be born in June or July or something like that, so wool's a bit warm anyway, but she wanted to do cotton so it would be nice and soft for the baby. And it's gonna be a girl, so she wanted to do like a nice baby pink, but we were at Michael's and looking at the Bernat cotton yarn. It's like a worsted, I think. They didn't really have a nice baby pink or one that she liked. There were some like deeper pinks, but not really a baby pink. And then I was thinking, well, what if you stripe it? And we were looking at a bunch of different combinations, because I had a ton of yarn, but not things that, that kind of worked for what she had in mind. But she ended up going with one of the things that I had suggested, which was to do alternate colors and do stripes. So the one color, and she's doing the garter rib baby blanket. So the one color is like a really light buttery yellow, and then the other one is a rainbow color, but it's like pastel rainbow. So there's yellow, blue, green, and like a pinkish, reddish. But they look really great together, I think. And she wasn't like super convinced at the beginning, but she said, well, you're the knitter, like you have a better idea what it's gonna look like knit up. And oh boy, so it was a bit of pressure. I said, well, you know, you're the one who has to like it, and it's for your daughter and her baby. And anyway, we ended up going with the yellow and stuff, and it is gonna be unisex, but I think I guess because I know the baby's a girl, it does look girly to me. So anyway, so I helped her cast on last night because it's 159 stitches, long tail cast on that we had to do, and I didn't want her to be like overwhelmed with doing that many stitches, so I did the cast on, and then she's got the pattern. I kind of deciphered it for her, so she knit 3 rows, and it's 5 rows. So she's got to do 2 more, and then she starts the garter rib pattern. So I don't know if she's going to work on anything today, but I work with her tomorrow, so I'll hear about the update. And then we just have to figure out how long we want how big we want the stripes to be. It was weird. In the balls of yarn, the rainbow one actually had a little bit less yarn than the solid colors. So I think she wants to do the yellow stripes a bit bigger. But we'll see. I'll have to help her out to kind of show her how to count rows, or she'll just make up the stripes as she goes, or I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't think she's gonna carry the yarn because then it'll be a bit messier looking or whatever. So we won't do that. But I brought some stitch markers for her, and I marked the right side and the wrong side so she can understand that as she's following the pattern and as she's getting started and establishing the pattern. It'll be a bit easier to figure out 2 different color stitch markers. So I should have done that for myself when I first started knitting, but I don't know why I'm tired. Anyway, that's all for now. This coming up week, I'm working Monday through Saturday. And then have Sunday, Monday off, where we're going to go to Jesse's parents. And go out for dinner and stuff. So that'll be good. But yeah. Have a good week. I will see you next weekend. Next time. Hopefully I have enough photos to show you. But yeah, and we'll see how that purple goes in place of blue, which is sad, but it is what it is. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, as I have talked about on previous episodes, I don't like frogging, but I have frogged more times on this one shawl than I have in my entire life. I think about 3 or 4 times I've frogged. The one time, it's driving me crazy because the pattern is so simple and it's just a bit of texture, but I'm not fully paying attention, I guess, to the pattern. I am now. So then I do the wrong thing and it's driving me crazy. But anyway, that's it. Bye.